Mr. Speaker, audience, prestigious colleagues, the government and opposition, we came here today to discuss the notion of this House, which is that it believes that authoritarian rule is better than democratic rule in unstable countries. We will discuss that and see which is better. As a minor edit to the definition that you said as a prime minister to the authoritarian rule, I say that authoritarian rule is just a prestigious, sophisticated word to say dictatorships, and indeed you admitted that when I asked you about that. From that I say that we are gathered here to discuss whether dictatorships are better than democracy or not. First, let me reply on some of the proclaims of the Prime Minister. She said that a political power that is above a constitutional law, which is authoritarian rule. Authoritarian rule, then we know that authoritarian rule is above constitutional power, a power that can be discussed, an ultimate power that will be given to the head of the state to do whatever she or he wants to do. So we know from the human experience and from the human history what did dictatorships like that with ultimate power have done to their people. I will not give an example because logically you will know that every and each ultimate power that governed any nation across history killed its own people rather than people outside of its country. Next point, she said that 1.5 million people in the United Kingdom regretted voting for Brexit next day. Well, we can see just last day how Tunisians made their democracy and they participated in big celebrations for their voting. Although the voting were 17.5% of the whole country, but we know that that 17.5 will go bigger because that 17.5 will affect others because they were happy because they have voted. The Tunisian people right now are happy because they are having democracy. She said also that she supports dictatorships somehow because she thinks that dictatorships across history were successful, and she gave the examples by Libya, Sudan, Egypt, North Korea. Let's discuss those one by one. Libya, it is unstable right now, although we have authoritarian rule. We had authoritarian rule, but people refuse that, yes?
I did not mention that the dictatorships worked in these unstable countries. I mentioned that democratical rule did not.
You have said that authoritarian rule governed many countries like Libya, Sudan, Egypt, North Korea. So if I take your second saying right now, then you are saying that dictatorships were not successful, that authoritarian rule is not successful, and that's totally against your position. She gave an example by Libya, Sudan, Egypt, and North Korea. As I have said, Libya is unstable right now. We can't guarantee stability under authoritarian rule that we have in the eastern part of Libya. Sudan, it is unstable. It was unstable. Authoritarian rule governed Sudan during the 20th century for more than 5 times. Every and each time the people go and take a revolution and decide to take out the president, and again authoritarian rule comes back again and kills people, and people go out against it again and again and again, and this circle will not end until they have democracy like the one that they are aiming to have right now. She said Egypt had a revolution. People came out, millions of people came out during the Arab Spring. They refused what authoritarian rule has done in the country. North Korea, it's a country that may open a new world war against the United States of America because of their ultimate power that their president had. So those were her examples, and I showed how fragile and vulnerable they are. Now, if you please, I would like to discuss our points. I will discuss 3 points on that. Fellow Deputy Leader of Opposition will discuss security and economy. First, all political systems across history are fragile. We cannot say that authoritarian rule is better. We cannot say that a political system is better because it depends on the social, economical, political context that the country has, the era that this system came out from. You cannot say that a political system is better than another without looking at the social, economical, and political conditions of that country and era across history. Most of revolutions which were the biggest cause of instability, that we came here to prove that authoritarian rules comes to guarantee stability for them, were made by people who are living under authoritarian rule, and examples of that are the Arab Spring country and the second Arab Spring that's happening right now this year in Algeria and Sudan. From that we get that authoritarian rule is eventually a leading route to instability that we came to stand against. Secondly, democratic regimes allow for the freedom of expression of wide range of views held by members of the community and political scene. Indeed, we see that many countries in the world depend on diversity, depend on freedom of speech. The most powerful country in the world has the ultimate freedom of expression. The United States of America made use of freedom of expression to be the strongest country in the world, the most stable country in the world indeed. That's how democracy works. And we go to the third point, which is that if authoritarian rule is better for people, then let people decide that. It is not democracy if it leads to authoritarian rule. You know why? Because people don't want authoritarian rule. We have a country, we have people inside the country who make this country to secure those people, to guarantee the stability of this country so that those people of that country will live safely and peacefully. Let those people decide, and if they decided and they will not to choose authoritarian rule, so be it. But they will not decide that. Example of that is Russia. It has some kind of minor authoritarian rule, but people chose that, so it's eventually democracy. That's why it's successful. That's why it's one of the biggest and most important countries of the world. So, to conclude all that, we came here to oppose the motion of this House, that this House believes that authoritarian rule is better than democratic rule because of the reasons that we have mentioned and the examples that are fragile and vulnerable that they mentioned, and thank you for listening.